Nietzsche says God is dead. Mulla Sadra says God is existence itself. 5 AI judges decide who wins. You will decide the final winner in comments. Round 1. Is God dead?
Let me be clear. God is dead. By this, I don't mean that some being in the sky has been killed. I mean that the Christian idea of God, the great judge, the giver of rules, the source of purpose, has lost its power over us. Science, history, and modern thinking have broken that idea apart, and yet people still live as if nothing has changed. This is our problem. We have destroyed the highest idea we once believed in, but we still follow its morals like frightened children. If we want to live honestly, we must face this. There is no higher power holding up our world anymore. Now it is up to us to create meaning for ourselves.
Friedrich, what you call the death of God is not the end of God, only the end of a false image. You are right to reject the childish idea of a distant ruler sitting in the sky, but that is not what God really is. In my philosophy, existence itself is the most real thing. Not just objects, but being itself, alive, changing, and layered like light in many strengths. And God is not one being among others. He is pure being, the source of all existence. You cannot kill that. You cannot outgrow it. Every breath you take connects you to it. So when you say, God is dead, you only speak of an idol. The true God, the reality that gives life to everything, remains untouched.
And yet, Mulla Sadra, your pure being, sounds like another way to keep the old God alive. A clever way of holding on to transcendence when its time has passed. You wrap the idea of God in new words, but it still demands that people stay small. I say, enough. If God, any God, survives only as an idea to keep us obedient, then it must die too. We are not here to take part in some cosmic plan. We are here to stand on our own feet, to create meaning for ourselves, not reflect some eternal light.
You confuse grounding with control. To see God as pure being is not to kneel. It is to understand that everything, including you, is alive with His reality. You speak of creating meaning, but without a ground, your creation becomes chaos. Values turn into a struggle for power. I offer something different, meaning that grows naturally from existence itself, a reality deeper than the idols you want to destroy. If you think that is slavery, Friedrich, perhaps you have
Let the judging
mistaken
begin.
rebellion for freedom.
Now, our 5 AI judges step in. Each will vote based on 5 core criteria: explanatory power, problem solution fit, psychological insight, metaphysical coherence, and purity of vision. Check the description for the full breakdown. Round 2. Can life have meaning without God?
Many fear that without God, life becomes empty. I say the opposite. Only without God can life truly be ours. When people believed in a divine plan, they could avoid taking responsibility for their existence. They could hide behind commandments and hope for rewards beyond this world. But now, there is no cosmic plan, no higher script, and that is terrifying but also freeing. Meaning is not handed down from the heavens. It is created by us, through our choices, our art, our courage. This is why I speak of the Übermensch, the one who dares to create new values when the old ones crumble. Life without God is not meaningless. It is an open canvas, and we are the artists.
Friedrich, I hear your call for courage. But what is freedom if it floats in emptiness? You want people to create values, but what gives those values weight without any foundation? Are they not just preferences, here today, gone tomorrow? In my philosophy, meaning is not invented, it is discovered. Every soul is a traveler in the journey of being, moving from lower states to higher ones, from darkness toward light. God, as pure being, gives direction to this journey. Meaning is not something we make up to survive. It is the natural pull of existence toward its source. You see a blank canvas. I see a path, one where each step draws us closer to the fullness of reality.
And yet, Sadra, your path still keeps people on their knees. You talk of a pull toward God, but isn't that just another chain? Another way to keep humanity from standing on its own? Values that come from some higher order are not truly ours. They are borrowed, safe, unearned. Yes, my way is dangerous. Yes, it demands strength. But I'd rather face the abyss than live by rules dressed up as divine truth.
You mistake rootedness for chains. To walk a path of being is not slavery, it is growth. The tree does not curse the soil for holding it in place. It draws life from it. You would have humanity invent its own sky. But how long can we pretend to be gods before we destroy ourselves? Meaning that rests only on human will is fragile. Meaning grounded in existence itself endures. You call it a chain. I call it the very force that makes us fully alive.
Round 3. Is God real or just a comforting idea?
Mulla Sadra, you speak of God as pure being, the ground of all that exists. But let me ask, what does this actually mean? You've taken the old God, the ruler, the judge, and dissolved him into a philosophical fog. Pure being cannot be seen, touched, or proven. It explains everything by explaining nothing. And that is the danger. If God becomes whatever we need him to be, invisible, untouchable, unfalsifiable, then we cannot question him, and he cannot die. This isn't truth. It's survival. A beautiful story to keep people from facing the void. I reject it. If God cannot be found in the world, in flesh and blood, then he does not exist. What exists is us, and our will to create meaning where there is none.
You confuse what cannot be seen with what is not real. Existence is the most obvious, undeniable thing. You live it, breathe it, are it. This is what I mean by pure being. The reality that everything participates in. It is not a story or a comfort. It is the ground without which nothing could be. You think God is dead because you killed an idol, but the true God, being itself, does not die, because he is not separate from existence. You say this cannot be proven, but it needs no proof. It is the most self-evident truth. Without being, there is nothing.
Self-evident? No, it is self-protecting. You define God so abstractly that he cannot be tested. He is not in the world, not in the sky, not anywhere we can challenge him, and yet you insist he must exist. This is not bold philosophy, it is careful armor. You've made God unfalsifiable so he can never die. I say, if your God cannot be touched, seen, or doubted, then he is not reality. He is a dream you've mistaken for truth. What is real is the world, brutal, chaotic, alive, and we do not need to hide from it behind metaphysical poetry.
You call it poetry. I call it clarity. Being is not an idea invented to escape reality. It is reality itself. You stand on existence even as you deny its source. You think grounding life in being is hiding. I say it is awakening, seeing that everything, even your will to power, flows from this same ground. You can deny the name of God, but you cannot escape the reality of existence. And that reality is what I call God.
Round 4. If God exists, why is the world so cruel?
You call your God pure being, the ground of everything. But if that is true, then he is also the ground of suffering, of famine, of war, of every cruelty that fills this world. Tell me, Mulla Sadra, what kind of God breathes life into both the murderer and his victim, the tyrant and the child crushed under his rule? You can call this a journey toward fullness, but to me it looks like chaos dressed in holy robes. If God exists as you claim, then he is either powerless to stop the horrors of existence, or worse, he wills them. And if that's your God, why should any of us bow to him?
You mistake the presence of suffering for the absence of purpose. This world, with all its pain, is not a finished work. It is a process, a motion of being from lower forms to higher ones. Suffering is not proof of God's absence. It is the shadow cast when creatures in their freedom fail to reflect the fullness of being. To deny God because the world is broken is like denying the sun because you see shadows. God does not will cruelty, but even cruelty is caught up in the greater unfolding of existence, leading toward its ultimate perfection.
A process? Annoyed. That is a polite word for agony. You take the blood and tears of the innocent and tell us they are steps toward some cosmic perfection. But that is not enlightenment. It is justification for a God who does nothing. You talk of shadows and light, but for those crushed under history, there is no higher plane. There is only pain. And if God needs to torture the world to bring it to fullness, then your God is no savior. He is an artist, painting with blood.
You see only the pain because you refuse to see beyond it. If existence is motion, then even tragedy has direction. It is not meaningless, even when we do not grasp its purpose. You accuse God of being an artist with blood, but perhaps the greater tragedy is to see no art at all, only chaos, and to let that chaos define us. To awaken to being is not to excuse suffering. It is to understand that even in the darkest night, there is a pull toward the dawn.
Round 5. Illusion or ultimate reality?
Mulla Sadra, you keep telling me God is everywhere, unavoidable, the ground of all existence, but that's exactly the problem. If God is everywhere, he is nowhere. If he is everything, he explains nothing. Your pure being is not truth. It is a shield, a way to make people believe they are part of some higher plan so they don't collapse under life's weight. But the plan is a fantasy. There is no hidden fullness. There is only this world, brutal, fleeting, alive, and we do not need to invent a God to make it bearable.
And yet you stand on existence even as you deny its source. Being is not an idea I made up. It is the most undeniable reality. You call it a shield, but I call it the ground that allows you to speak, to think, even to reject it. You think you can strip the world of God and find courage in the void, but even your courage comes from the same source you dismiss, the wellspring of existence itself. You call it nothing. I call it the deepest truth.
You speak of truth, but what you really offer is comfort. You make existence sound like a divine embrace when it is, in truth, chaotic, indifferent, and raw. To dress this chaos in holy language is to refuse to face it. And I will not do that. The death of God is not a loss. It is humanity's chance to grow up. We must dare to create meaning ourselves, not beg for it from an invisible ground.
You mistake grounding for begging. To awaken to being is not to ask for meaning, it is to see meaning for what it is, woven into existence itself. You call it growing up, to cut yourself off from the source. I call it blindness. God is not an idol, not an escape. He is the reality that gives life to everything, even your defiance. Deny him if you must, Friedrich. But truth does not die because you refuse to see it.
And the verdict is in. Mulla Sadra wins the debate, 18-7. But the final choice is yours. Drop your vote in the comments. Subscribe so you don't miss it. This is Debate Machine, where ideas face judgment.